Just a heads up before we begin. This is part 1 of a series. Subscribe if you'd like to hear the full story as it unfolds. If you take a wrong turn off of Route 3 between Searsport and Bucksport, and then another wrong turn trying to get back, and then drive that wrong way for another hour and 7 minutes, you might find yourself near the cottage. Yes, that's the name. No, I did not name it, and no, I won't be changing it. Some things must remain the same. From the outside, the cottage looks like any old New England manor. The gravel driveway, lined with towering white pines, leads up to a 3-story house with faded gray paint, bay windows, and a wraparound porch. Calling the parking lot a parking lot is generous, because if there is more than one guest, someone has to park in the grass. I could expand it, but I don't see a need. There's never more than one guest. I live on the bottom floor, with the kitchen and the dining room and access to the basement. My quarters include a room just big enough for my queen-sized bed, a private full bathroom, and a small office that is just a large closet converted for function that faces the drive. On the 2 floors above me, there are 4 separate suites. Each has their own recently updated bathroom. Each has a walk-in closet, and each has a king-sized bed. I could host several extended stays at a time, but I rarely do. I have owned the cottage for the better part of 5 years, and maybe someday I'll tell you how I acquired it. Maybe someday I will tell you about how I even got here in the first place. I'm not ready to share the details yet, but what I will tell you? It wasn't by searching places to stay near me. Anyway, as I said, follow those vague instructions and you might be near the cottage. You probably won't find it. If you're one of the lucky ones anyway. My most recent guest was not one of the lucky ones. December 5th, 2025. I looked up from my desk as headlights appeared over the slight ridge of my driveway. It was well past dark, and I had no reservations, but I was dressed for the night shift, as I had been every night for nearly half a decade. Professional slacks, sensible non-slip shoes, a blouse, tonight's was a soft pink, and a blazer. I stepped out to the foyer and stood just behind the door, waiting for the knock I knew was coming. She sat in her car for at least 10 minutes, maybe 15. Then she knocked. Tentative, and just twice, like she wasn't sure she wanted to be heard, like she wasn't sure that the cottage was where she was meant to be. I opened the heavy wooden door to greet her, a practiced, professional smile on my face. "Welcome to the cottage, miss. Please, come in." She was young, maybe 25, with disheveled blonde hair and blue eyes accessorized by matching bags underneath. The clothes that hung off her too thin frame were worn but not filthy, and all she carried with her was a small canvas backpack. I stepped behind my front desk and watched as she followed me, timid, slow, tired. No, not tired, exhausted, and not just from lack of sleep. The young woman passed me her ID and credit card without a verbal request, clearly familiar with the routine of roadside motels. Anastasia, born in 2001. She looked younger in the picture on her New York driver's license. Happier. It's $50 per night, tax included. If you choose to stay tomorrow, we just repeat this. I don't hold for incidentals. Anastasia's eyes flicked around the room, a bit of disbelief flashing, but she just nodded. Fine. She signed the screen I flipped to her without another word. I grabbed an old iron key from the top drawer of the desk and paused, watching my guest watch me. Breakfast is at 8 a.m. Anastasia nodded absently, already planning not to be there. Your favorite will be ready. It's just me here for staff, and just you as a guest. You are my sole focus. I paused, scanning her face. She still wasn't truly listening to me. I wondered where her mind was, what she had driven so far from. Something brought you to the cottage, something terrible and dark that you won't talk about. Maybe something that you won't even think about. She had frozen and was avoiding my gaze, the gaze that was still studying her, still wearing that professional smile. You need to talk about it, at breakfast, at 8 a.m. Anastasia looked at the door, clearly questioning if she should leave. I waited, patient. She wouldn't leave. Nobody ever did. Where is my room? It was a question, but it wasn't. Her voice was flat, which surprised me. Many of my guests showed fear, or at least uncertainty. Not Anastasia. Up the stairs, first door on the right. I dropped the heavy key in her hand. I watched her inspect it. I'll see you in the morning. She trudged up the stairs, burdened by luggage I couldn't see, that nobody could see, and disappeared from my sight. I sighed and returned to my own room and settled into my bedtime ritual. I braided my hair loosely and brushed my teeth and watched my tired face in the mirror. 5 years of this, of guests in pain, of that conversation maybe once a week with people who could barely handle any distress at all. 5 years of breakfasts, of hearing stories of loss and addiction and suffering and trauma, of letting people walk out my door with the same weight as before, but carried differently. I dreamed of chocolate chip waffles and fresh blueberries. I dreamed of a little girl with clean blonde hair and blue eyes and no trace of pain on her face, running around in a fenced-in backyard. I dreamed of her as a teenager, those same blue eyes still bright and free of pain. I watched those eyes walk into the house with that fenced-in backyard, and I watched them darken in horror and pain. I dreamed of blood, of a grisly crime scene, of losing 2 parents in one day, of grief no child should carry. I dreamed of drugs, marijuana, then pain pills, then IV heroin. I dreamed of alcohol. I dreamed of sex work in dark alleys and dingy hotel rooms. I dreamed of clawing for survival. I dreamed of 2 pink lines. I dreamed of withdrawal, of pain suffered with determination, and determination alone. I dreamed of hope. I dreamed of miscarriage. I dreamed of a drive from New York City up highways north, trying to find any shred of that hope again. I dreamed of trying to find any reason not to return to the peace of being high. I woke up to my alarm at 6 o'clock exactly, with a calm heart rate and a new knowledge of the guest who was tossing and turning upstairs. It had been 5 years of dreaming of my guests and their lives and what led them to my door. It had been 5 years of knowing exactly what to do. I got to cooking an hour later, after journaling my dream alongside my morning cup of coffee. I made the chocolate chip waffles and washed the fresh blueberries. I set the table, and I waited for Anastasia to appear. "Good morning." Her voice was cautious, but she spoke, and I saw those blue eyes looking at her favorite meal in front of her. "Don't worry about it," I responded, standing to pull her chair out. "Sit, eat, and then we will talk." She devoured her meal as if she hadn't eaten properly in days, because she hadn't eaten properly in days. I ate as well and watched, When she needed a refill on her coffee or a replacement for eaten food, I gave it without question. She needed to fill her belly for the strength to bear her soul. Finally, she spoke. I was 17 when my father killed my mother and then himself. It changed everything. I was going to be a doctor. It was what I'd wanted since I was small. I wanted to help people and save people. Her eyes wandered, staring out the windows to the garden, but seeing nothing. I found them. I had to manage everything. No family member could take me and keep me at my school, or nobody was willing. I dropped out. I moved from upstate to the city. I started using drugs. I just wanted to sleep without seeing that picture every time I closed my eyes, and it worked. But it's hard to keep a job when you're high all the time, and to stay high all the time, you need more and more money. I did what I had to. Sex work. I filled the gap softly, before allowing her to speak again. I did not comment on her tears. I did not speak on the way her hand shook, holding the coffee mug I gave her. I did not mention the whiteness of her knuckles. What I had to do. It was years and years. I've been arrested more times than I can count. Solicitation, possession, public intoxication, anything you could imagine a loser being charged with, I was arrested for. I did a bit of jail time, in and out. I went right back to the work every time. And then, a couple months ago, I find out I'm pregnant. Her eyes closed, and her now empty mug drops to the table with a dull thud. I cleaned up. I was terrified, but I had always wanted to be a mom. I didn't want to bring a baby into the world on drugs. I wanted to figure it out. I detoxed on my own, and it was miserable. I wanted to use, and I wanted to die every second of it, and then for a while after. Anastasia's fingers twitched, and her mouth curled into a wry smile. She laughed, but it was dry, pain-filled. I lost it. 14 weeks along, and I wake up in a puddle of blood and cramping like you wouldn't believe. The first thing I thought of was using again, but I had gone through so much trouble to clean up. But it's been a few weeks, and I want to get high so badly. I tried driving away from the urge, thought maybe if I left the memories and the pain I'd leave the need too, but none of it left. And a quick fix might cost less than filling up my tank next. She trailed off. The food was gone, but I refilled her coffee cup. I waited. Anastasia was finally done talking. For now. The cottage is a crossroads, I told her, my voice level and gentle. You didn't end up here by accident. When you walk out this door, you will have made a decision. I will know what it is, even if you don't yet. I smiled, trying to be reassuring. You can stay longer. You can keep talking to me. You can keep eating your favorite meals. You can process whatever weighs on you within the safety of my walls for $50 a night. Anastasia gulped from the coffee mug and tracked me as I sat back down across from her. You can leave. You will leave eventually, no matter what you choose. What happens after you leave is what you must decide. I trailed off, hoping she'd understand. I couldn't explain it to her. It was part of the guidelines, part of the magic, gift or curse that made the cottage what it was. I could try to speak what would happen, exactly what the choice was, but it would die in my throat. It would never make it off my tongue. If I tried to type it or write it, it would be as if I never put it to paper at all. "I want to leave," Anastasia decided, what felt like hours after I'd given her my speech. I assessed her from head to toe, taking in her posture, noting the lack of a tremble in her hands and the clarity in her eyes. I knew what would happen after she drove away. I believe she knew it too. I would never see Anastasia again. She was resigned to a better future, and a harder one in some ways, that would never lead her back to the cottage. That same night she left, I cleaned the room she had slept in just once. I dreamed of an old woman with bright blue eyes, silver hair, and a smile that was framed by wrinkles formed after years of laughter. She watched children play in a new, fenced-in backyard with a swing set and a picnic table, and love like sunlight spilling out through the cracks in the wooden boards to the properties beyond. It's important that you understand that I don't help my guests in any way that could be explained by common science. The curse of this home is the knowledge, and the gift is the light of love that can sometimes burn away shadows with a well-cooked meal. I don't wave a magic wand or speak an ancient incantation. I just do what needs to be done. Anastasia S. from New York State was a normal girl with a tragic background and a bright future. Not all of my guests are so normal. Not all of my guests are so lucky. I'll share their stories another time.